dark side, my yucky bits, my greed, my neediness, the kind of stuff that I feel so ashamed of, unworthiness, all that stuff. And that part of us does go into the shadow, the hidden away parts, but lots of beautiful things go into the shadow too during our childhoods, when we're shown so many different parts of us are unwelcome. Beautiful parts of us, like being a flamboyant entertainer. It's a lovely thing occasionally to hold the floor and, you know, want to tell a joke or entertain everybody, but that's very much shut down in people in their childhoods a lot, certainly where I come from. So to the point where people are meant to feel ashamed at wanting to take the spotlight, or it's some sort of greedy thing, or it's an arrogant thing, and they would hate to be someone that was thought of as someone that sought the spotlight. Such a taboo. So now if I'm in a workshop and I get people to come and stand at the front, they would freeze, like most people would, to be unprepared and exposed. So the beautiful part of us that just naturally stands up in front of people and talks and shares things, for most people, is in the shadow. It's been edited away, hidden away. The shadow means that which has been hidden away in the shadows. It doesn't mean dark. So let's just start from there. There's a huge amount of all of us when we were growing up, given the rules that we were given and having the love withdrawn when we broke them or transgressed them or behaved in a way that didn't fit where that house rules of how you should be somebody. When we were given that feedback that that part wasn't okay, we made little edits in ourselves and cut ourselves down more and more and more to be this kind of shop window of all the best bits that still maintained love. And huge, beautiful parts of us went into that shadow hidden away place, as well as yucky bits and, you know, anger and greed and things that aren't usually socially acceptable. Anger was made to be naughty, so we've all gulped back a whole lifetime's worth of anger. Our tears, especially if you're a boy, have all been gulped back for decades. All the anxieties, all the injustices we couldn't express, that all lives in us. And because our bodies are the most amazing self-mending thing we know of in the universe, which is why we breathe, doing the breathing activates all those parts of the body that are mending itself and conscious of itself even better. You know, it's a totally efficient thing to do, to breathe consciously. But what it also does is it assists in what the body is already doing, which is trying to slightly unedit itself back to wholeness, to not be in suppression, to not exhaust itself wearing masks and living a life where you're defending or persuading or even manipulating. Instead of all those things, we're trying to turn towards those things that everybody pushes away. And the practice I work with, and I work with Ben, is all about turning towards, not turning away. So if we were ever going to run a retreat, we'd probably call it an approach. So much of our tender, less than fully comfortable feelings are pushed away in this culture of comfort addiction. You know, we just get a headache, take a pill. And because coming back to these lost parts of ourselves that are so full of treasure actually does come with some tender, borderline edgy feelings sometimes, people tend to sort of turn away from it without even thinking, because it just doesn't fit with the comfort zone. But it actually takes very, very little discomfort and very little tenderness to, when we're not in a crisis, snorkel around this stuff. I'm not so much into smashing through the boundaries and going straight into the deep water, like, here are my nipples. I just think I'm a quite lazy artist, and I like the low-hanging fruit. Sorry, I've just realised that on my screen, all I've got is Ben's face right about 6 inches away from me. I want to give you a kiss. So yeah, that's what I mean by shadow. And we've got a few games that we do on the workshops and in one-on-one mentoring and coaching, where we explore not being in a crisis, and having a look and a feel and a meet with these parts of ourselves. Usually these parts only sabotage our life and crash in at times when we're triggered. So we associate all these parts of ourselves with being triggered, with something we don't want to deal with pain and grief and stress. But it's actually really fun to go on a monster hunt with love. When you're not in a crisis, when we're gathered here with like 90 to 100 groovy, like-minded people, we all feel safe with each other. And we're not in a crisis, we're in our curiosity, we're in our, you know, yin. It's a really great thing to have a sniff around and meet these parts of ourselves when our cortisol and our adrenaline and our resistance isn't pounding away. So that's one of the things I love to do, because as an artist, I know that these parts that come back, they bring with them creative treasure. They bring with them expression, permission, resting in ourselves in a way that, you know, we've always found a bit out of reach. That resting in ourselves and just being here and being comfortable to be here without scrabbling around for the next thing, that comes from integrating these parts and everyone feeling a sense of connectedness and togetherness in themselves. And when we feel that, suddenly the amount of intimacy in our friendships, in our relationships, with other people goes through the roof. So that's quite a long ramble to say, would you like to play a game? This is a game in my Insanely Gifted book. I've got a book called Insanely Gifted, and this is one of the games inside. It's like the bog standard demon harvest. You know, we have ourselves, the you, the me, that's the wise, kind, untriggered, present version of ourselves, terribly enlightened and peaceful in all ways. But as soon as something threatens our comfort zone or triggers us, or someone speaks to us in that tone of voice or whatever, when one of our little bodyguards inside is triggered into having to defend itself, the lovely grown-up adult us kind of seems to go to sleep, get a kind of spiritual narcolepsy. And the one that comes forward is one of these characters that live in our head, the voices that are going to constantly try and protect us and strategize and you know, make sure that we never feel any pain or discomfort. So knowing the difference between the real me, who's here talking to you now, and the triggered, manipulating, worried one that leaps in, is the goal game for me, to know the difference between the real me, who's an adult in this moment, and all the regressed children that live in my head. So, Ben, just give me a quick wave to make sure you can still hear me, because my whole screen just weirdly turned around. Okay, good. So let's play this little game, which is like, you know, a bog standard demon harvest, where we take one of these characters or parts of us that have been hidden away, and one of the places we push away, and turn towards it in a you know, maybe it's counterintuitive to turn towards things we usually associate with stress, but just, you know, step by little step, do it with me this evening, and be especially intimate with your insides while you do it. Notice your own compass, because how you feel and what you need is, the information is there for you just by being intimate and sensing the inside of ourselves, knowing how we feel. Even if you need to put your hand on your heart a little bit to do it, just check in with how you feel right now in this moment, and keep part of you always monitoring that, so that if ever in any of the games or the breathes it feels a little bit too much and you feel like you want to take a step back, you notice your insides and your needs well enough to self-care for yourself, because no one apart from you knows how you feel and what you need. And we're all the mummy and daddy of ourselves in this. So when we're starting to tiptoe around things that could be potentially tender or challenging, we just up our level of focus on the part that's checking in on how we're doing, so that we never trample our boundaries just by going along with the herd because everyone else is doing it, or because Ben is so handsome I just can't resist doing everything he says. We're so in touch with ourselves that we will know if something feels too much. And I ask you all to really be fully checked in with yourself, just in case what we do now does bring up some tender feelings. I want you to totally give yourself permission to step back and not trample your boundaries by pushing yourself too far. I really am into low-hanging fruit and into just, you know, seeing what is given when we begin to just snorkel around the edge. So given that, we're going to play a little game, and this game is called the Cinderella game. So what I would like you to do, if you're ready for it, is I would like you to think of a dysfunctional behavior of yours, a regular or a repetitive dysfunctional behavior that you do or that you get triggered into, that maybe you've done for a long time. You know, it may be a repetitive pattern that whenever ... I always ... something which you seem to have little control over, seems to be quite a wound. Something, maybe you've gone to lots of workshops and done lots of sessions about it, but it hasn't ever really quite moved even an inch. Everyone's got one, or a few. I can certainly think of a few of mine. So yeah, a repetitive dysfunctional behavior, a way that you behave whenever certain things happen or a certain kind of situation, or left to yourself. Choose one of your repetitive dysfunctional behaviors, and if there are a few, choose a middling level of suffering one. You know, I mean, by all means choose an 8, 9 or a 10 if you're feeling juicy and primed, but in the absence of bubble bath and kittens, if you just want to play it a bit safer, choose a middling level one. I don't know really know how to get a show of hands to say, have you all chosen one? But I'm going to give you 20 more seconds just to feel into yourself, feel how you feel on the inside, and just tune into, what do I keep doing that I wish I had stopped years ago, but whenever ... I seem to always go to sleep and start behaving in this painful way or disempowered way or way that I still don't seem to be able to transform. It's just what I always do. I'm going to imagine, yes, Jesus has just told me that you've all now decided on what you're going to be working with. And I want to just lay a concept on you that we're going to be playing with in this game. And I'm going to give you this concept, and then what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask Ben to put on a bit of music, something gentle, and I'm going to ask you to just breathe into yourselves and consider what I'm just about to share with you. Whenever we get triggered into these kinds of behaviors, like the one that you've chosen today, it's almost like the real you falls asleep, the lovely, wise, kind one with the values and decisions and choices that you have falls asleep, and a different you kind of grabs the wheel. The you that you become, I'm imagining that the you that you become when you get triggered into this thing that you've chosen for this game is almost like a different you. It's like a younger you, a regressed you, a more scared you, a more controlling you, a more something. It's like a different character that you become that has a different value system to you and would make different choices and communicate in a different way. I hope that's fair to say. It's almost like a different character jumps in to grab the wheel. And I liken that character to the child that we left to guard the door of never feeling that anymore at whatever age. It's like that one that jumps in to grab the wheel is like a regressed child who is trying to help. It's doing with its data from whenever back then you said to that being. I'm saying that we created that little being to make sure we never felt that again and to guard that door and to protect us from that area of pain. And we gave it the data that we gave it back then when we were children, or whatever year that we did it, usually as children. And it is still back then at the values and the thoughts, because it's never been updated to the modern day. We've never taken that little one aside now and said, actually, it's 2020 now, and I have a dry place to sleep and food in the fridge, and actually good friends. It's, life is a lot better. You don't need to be so afraid. It's never heard that data. So the one that we become, that character that jumps in, actually thinks it's helping. We created it long ago. Let me give you an example. The youngest of 6 siblings, when he was the youngest of 6 siblings in his childhood, he had to sort of elbow everyone out of the way and be really shouty and grabby just to get his needs met, just to get noticed, just to get food on his plate. But now that he's 36 years old, that behavior is not working for him anymore. But that child that was invented to be elbowing and grabby, that might not have been even in his real, natural nature, was created back then to survive that situation as a child. And it never got told to stop. And therefore now it's acting out as an impulse in his life in certain situations, and it's not working for him. So in the same way, the one that you've chosen to work with today, I want you just to consider, while Ben puts on some music, and we'll just have 3 minutes just to reflect inwardly. If you liken this one that you become when you get triggered to another character, a younger character of you jumping in that you created to protect you and help you in some way, I want you to wonder to yourself, this one that you've chosen to work with today, feel it like a character, that feeling of it. You might already start feeling it in your body, in your heart, or in your solar plexus or belly, just being a bit internal and just feeling the essence of this trigger, this one that you become, but in a welcoming way, because it's actually been trying to help and it deserves a bit of a thank you, in my opinion. So just if it feels comfortable to you, just to allow it to be called in just a little bit, just to feel the essence of that flavor of your life when that stuff happens. And see if we can meet it with curiosity and welcome instead of the usual pushing away in terror or shame. Just be like a bit curious about it, because it's been out in the cold, this kid, only using the data you gave it long ago to protect this door from ever being opened and this pain from being felt again. It's trying to protect something. So as Ben puts on this music, I'd like to ask yourself 2 questions. First question I'd like to ask yourself is, what was going on? If what Jamie says is true, what was going on back then that I needed to create a character like this to protect me? And what job did I create it to do, this character? What specific job did I create it to do? So those are the two questions I'd like to ask yourself. And I'll just say it again. Maybe there's a way they come up on the screen. Who knows? In the chat box, someone might write it. The first thing is, what was going on earlier in my life? At what age did I create this little version of myself to protect me? That I needed one that had the behavior of this, what I now call the dysfunction. I needed that one's skills back then, even if it's not appropriate now. What was going on in my life back then that I needed to create this one, and to do what job for me? And let's just sit with that for a few minutes. Maybe Benedict put on some music. Now let's, for 3 minutes, just reflect on that question. This little character that we're going to welcome home. When might have I created it, and to do what job for me? What was going on in my life when? And to create what job, to do what job for me? 3 more minutes. Okay. Gently coming back into the space. Very gently coming back into the space and feeling a sense of closeness now with that character who lives in us, who's jumping in to try and protect us. And as we breathe, without doing the full-on deep circular crazy breathing, but just being super conscious of our breath and how it is doing it itself and how we're being breathed, feeling the essence of this part of ourselves being breathed into our cells in an integrating, welcoming, curious way instead of a pushing away way. I want you to really feel this character there, and if however way you feel comfortable, to just call that part of yourself, that little character that's been living in you with the values of a child, never updated, that life is actually in 2020 now and we're safe. Just to, in any way that feels natural to you, pull that little fella close, that little girl or that little boy, and just remind it that you will never abandon its feelings. Its feelings are okay to be felt, and you're willing to feel that tenderness with them. And we're just going to get a little more treasure out of the experience before we go into the deep breathe with Ben. We're just going to ask that little character that we're feeling the essence of, where you feel it as you breathe, maybe the breath alights somewhere in the body where you feel the essence or the flavor of that character lives. You might put your palm on that place if you feel that essence of that trigger, that character, that little one in the top of your chest or your solar plexus or belly or head. It could be anywhere. Place the palm of your hand gently there, and we're just going to ask that little character some questions. And the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to ask the question inwardly and sit in our curious yin, receptive listening, softness, yielding. Just see if any answer comes back from the little one who's been working so hard to protect us. First one isn't a question, just tuning into that little one and feeling your connection with them. The first thing I want you to communicate to them in whatever way feels natural to you, just communicate to them, thank you. Thank you for working so hard all these years to try and protect me. But I don't need that job done by you anymore. You can stand down. See if whatever natural way it feels to communicate. Thank you for all the work you've done to try and protect me. But I don't need the work, that job done that way anymore. You can stand down. And just see if anything comes back, sitting in the yin and the listening in the space. See if any response comes back from that little one. Just listening deeply, receiving. Thank you. And the next question we ask, staying with the breath, you can stroke their hair if you feel inclined, or give them a little cuddle, depending on how you're feeling, and noticing any tender feelings in the body. The emotion is all totally welcome if there is any. The next question we ask is there anything that you need? Asking that little one who's been feeling all the terrors and trying its best to protect us, is there anything that you need? And then we just sit in the space and listen for the answer, empty and listen and listen. Is there anything that you need? Thank you. And the next question we ask is, do you have a message for me? Do you have a message for me? Thank you. And the last question, which is the $1 million question, especially if you've got some projects or plans or things you want to leap into creatively this year, we ask him or her, giving it even more of a squeeze, ask them, what new job would you like to do instead? Now that you're not doing the old protective job anymore and we're all safe, what new job would you like to do instead with your skills of observation and sensitivity and often organization and persuasion and whatever skills the little one has? What new job would you like to do instead that would be more in harmony with how our life is now? And just sit in the space and see if anything comes back from the little one. What new job would you like to do instead with your skills that would be harmonious for our life now?
That's what they said.
So, thank you.
I use Zoom all the time.
So, thank you so much for cuddling this little one home. It's your new first employee for whatever you're trying to achieve this year. That's my secret wish. You might want to design it its own little beautiful business card and a cool job description, because you're the one who decides what it will be doing. And staying with the breath, just remind that little one that it's welcome. And maybe next time that trigger happens, we can dare to turn towards and feel the essence of how this one feels and listen to its treasure instead of the auto escape that seems so tempting at the time because it's uncomfortable. I want us all to be humans that are willing to feel some of our tender and uncomfortable feelings, because the amount of treasure that pours in when we do that is unfathomable. That's why that's called the Cinderella game, because that little character has worked so hard and been rejected all the time and ashamed of and never let to come to the ball. So it's going to be a really wonderful turning point for that little pocket of us to now be welcomed and treated with cuddling and understanding and empathy instead of rejection. And with that, I shall hand over to our Ben.
Thank you, Jamie. And thank you. And I'm sure I speak for everyone here. I am in that tender, gentle space with my little one with me as well. And as we go into the breathe, I would like to invite everyone to take that little part of them with them, to hold them space, hold them safely as we undertake this breathwork journey. So maybe find a space where you can be comfortable for the next 30 minutes and breathe. That may be lying down where you can be fully supported, but it is also okay to do this practice sitting up. And just to talk about the contraindications and the guidelines around this again, because conscious connected breath is a very powerful breath technique. If you suffer from epilepsy, schizophrenia or bipolar, those are contraindications. And although this practice may be beneficial, you should not do it without medical advice. If you have a heart condition, low blood pressure, or you're early or unstable pregnancy, again, if you choose to do this, then go lightly. At all times, you are in your own sovereignty and your own power. Give yourself permission to go in as gently as you wish. You may experience physical sensations such as a dry throat, tetany in your body, lots of energy changes, all those are to be expected and to be welcomed in, because they may contain wisdom for you. If it's overwhelming at any point, please just feel in your power to change your breath pattern. Put some pauses in, breathe through your mouth, and those sensations will fade away. But I do encourage you to breathe. We are here to breathe. So in a second, I'm going to share my screen and you will hear the music play. But just to remind you of the breath pattern, I describe it in 4 steps. We open our mouth really wide, as if you're going to the dentist wide. So try that and give your jaw a wiggle. Now your mouth may well close, but just try and stay conscious of that. When we breathe, we take full body breaths into every part of our body. We keep our breath connected, which means no pauses at the top and no pauses at the bottom. And the final instruction is to really breathe in on the inhale, but just let go on the exhale. Let the air just rush out of your body. So find yourself in a comfortable position. And as soon as you're there, just drop back into that tender space again with your little one beside you. Close your eyes. Feel them with you. And as we begin our breath work, let them know you're going to keep them safe. You'll keep them protected. You'll keep them with you at all times. So open your mouth wide. Begin your full body breaths. With no pauses at the top, no pauses at the bottom. And be open to where your breath wants to take you. Stay present with your breath. Keep your mouth wide. Keep your breath full. Keep it connected. And keep your little one with you. Keep them safe with you. Listen to what they need to tell you. What do they need from you? Full deep breaths, breathing into every part of your body, breathing to where your little one is, breathing into that space when you were that little one. Feel what they felt, hear what they heard. Keep that little one with you, but also be that little one too. Breathe with and for them. And as the music starts growing in intensity, and if you wish to go deeper, maybe make your breath fuller. Use your breath to go deeper, to really drop in with your little one, to hear what they need to tell you, and to a place where you can tell them what they need to hear too. Whatever that is. Reassurance that you will always be with them, that you will always love them, that you will always care for them. Let your little one hear exactly what they need to hear. Breathe into that place. Breathe fully and breathe freely. Stay with your breath. Just be aware of your mouth position. If you wish to go deeper, keep it wider. Keep your breath full. Breathe into every part of your body. Your stomach and your chest and your shoulders. Feel as if every part of your body is breathing in. Keep it connected with no pauses. Just letting everything go on the exhale. Whatever you're feeling, welcome it in. Whatever emotions are arising, whatever memories are there, welcome them. Acknowledge them, make friends with them. Ask them what they need to tell you. What do you need to hear from them? What do you need to know? Welcome everything in. Feel everything and breathe. We have 3 minutes until we reach the peak, so breathe. Breathe for 3 minutes, fully. Keep your child safe with you. Let them know it's going to be okay. Whatever's happening, you've got their back. You've got them safe. Let them feel you're with them. Breathe with them. Feel how amazing it is to have them with you. How much love there is. Breathe it all in. 30 more seconds till we reach the peak, so breathe fully, breathe it all in. So keep your breath full, but keep it gentle now. And let your breath cradle you, like you are cradling your little one. And let your breath cradle you, like you were cradled when you were young too. And let it hold you and support you, love you and nourish you. Breathe full, breathe free, and breathe gently. Now is the time to open, to surrender. Really be with your little one. Really hear what they need, what messages that they have for you. Really cradle them, really hold them safe. Really let them know you will always be there. This is our final song of the breathwork. So a final 2 minutes for you to breathe and to feel. When this song finishes, we'll come into silence and you can let your breath return to normal. And then we will have one more song to bring us back into the room, back into sitting, back into where we can share. So for the last 2 minutes, breathe fully, freely, gently, breathe everything in. Feel everything for you and your little one. So let your breath return to normal. Close your mouth, breathe through your nose, put some pauses in. We'll have a few moments of silence. And I'll play one track to bring us back to our share. Start to bring some movement back into your body. Maybe start with your fingers and your toes. Maybe at your wrists. Start to bring some movement back into your shoulders and your hips. Feel your spine moving. Luxuriate in it. When you're ready, roll onto your side. Take some breaths there. Maybe bring some movement into your face. Maybe start to smile. Feel how wonderful life is. And keep moving. If you want to sway or dance, that's okay as well. And when you're ready, we'll come back to sitting. And we'll come back to the room together, and we'll have space to share. So, welcome back everyone. Welcome back into the room. My teacher Anthony from Alchemy of Breath, Abagnano, always says what a tremendous privilege and honor it is to be able to hold space for people, to allow them to go into those vulnerable places where there is great healing. And it is my honor to be here today. So before we just jump into any shares, maybe just make sure you're back in the room. Give yourselves a tap on the shoulder, maybe a tap on the face, maybe tap your hands together, just to make sure that you're back here to properly ground yourself. So we always have space at the end of a breath work to share. And we do that for two reasons. First of all, by articulating our own experience, it makes it more real, it helps integrate it. But also when we share, we maybe articulate for someone else as well. We speak for them.